September 20th, which means that he has another, I think, 9 days on that extension to correct the issue. Or he did indicate that he was going to try to get a second opinion, so I don't know if that's been done or not, but.
Sure. And for clarity, this order wasn't a tear down order. This is an order that I was going to place a certificate of non-compliance on the property. We didn't have the dangerous building code adopted at the time that this enforcement had initiated, and I didn't have a tear down order appropriated in the building code. So basically, a certificate of non-compliance gets placed on a title whenever there's a serious issue at hand, and then basically whenever there's a sale, a title company runs a title search and they find out it's basically a flag telling people that there's a fairly serious problem that needs to be remedied with the property. 99% of the time it will stop the sale unless it's a cash only sale, in which case they're welcome to proceed.
So this property, again, I know what it is by driving by it. It's right now it's up for rent. The property, that lot is $2,250 a month rent. Now, if somebody rents that, is this attached to the home they want to rent out? Or is it still a hazard? You get a bunch of kids running back into this building that's, I mean, it's a surmising or, is a hazard for anybody to go into this construction or whatever.
Sure, and I firmly believe that I'm well supported under the Uniform Abatement for Dangerous Buildings Code to initiate a remediation order on it. I don't have that in the works right now. I was trying to avoid the appealee just for the sake of letting calmer heads prevail. So I haven't furthered my enforcement at all. But that's something that certainly would be appropriate in this case if it wasn't agreed to be moved. But again, it's in fact, I mean, we're outside of compliance with state law, so building something and then renting it out to other folks, also may be a criminal matter if you don't meet the requirements in order to conduct the construction.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything else?
My thoughts are, I think this is very well put together, problems, possible remedies. And again, I'll go back to me, and my personal thoughts on this right here is it's got to be tore down and start over again. You got to get the foundation around it. If you don't have a good foundation, you don't have nothing. And you've done an excellent job putting stuff together. If he wants to get an engineer to come under and stamp it, as you say, that's his business. We can't have the city have the liability of, Craig's doing his job just what he's hired to do. He's got a lot of degrees and so forth, training in this. And I don't know if Mr. Nall has any training in this. I don't think his cohort, Mr. Chachis, has any training other than punching fire extinguishers. But I don't understand.
More than you.
This is so obvious that it's just a wreck. It's a disaster. And seeing it going out possible rent to people coming into town because housing is such a shortage, to put a family in a home and right in the backyard attached to it is a structure that could fall down, kill somebody. I just can't believe there's no other way than to deny his appeal.
Mr. Hull wanted to, you wanted some extension of time, you already got 90 days, you said. Is it something can be put on hold and that you see what could happen there? 90 days is.
Sure. The only enforcement we have again is for the certificate of non-compliance. That's removable. It's not a permanent stain on somebody's title. If you remove the problem, then we file what's called a certificate of withdrawal that removes that title encumbrance essentially. So it's not necessarily a permanent punishment. It's not like a remediation order where we would go through, if he didn't remediate it, we would do so at public funds and then back charge for taxes or anything like that. But it is something that because the house was for sale and Mr. Dahl was currently residing there was the reason that I hadn't pursued the remediation order. It wasn't for rent at that time. So we weren't looking at getting a renter in there who, unbeknownst to them, may or may not, run into a problem that ends up with a catastrophic failure at the time. To Mr. Dahl's credit, the non-structural framing and the prosecution of the workmanship, generally speaking, is very nice. He certainly does have some experience in framing, but it's just the very critical structural elements that are of concern to me. And again, I don't have the authority to approve any of those that are outside the building code as discussed tonight. I only have the ability to approve an engineer's recommendation stating that they're compliant or equivalent to building code requirements.
Okay, one more question there. The homeowner,
And speaking,
I'm trying to think, some type of a solution, so he's not the homeowner, although Bill was. That makes it tough. The overbuilder is really a tough one, and it's there for a reason, you know. I personally never been too excited about that 1 year you have to keep after you do some work on your own home, because of circumstances, but that's the rule. You gotta be 1 year. Engineering that beam is simple. I mean, I had a beam engineered by Boise. They come in with spans and all that good stuff. But that square footage of that, and the way it looks in that picture, I drove by and I thought the construction looked good to me outside the fence. Well, you have a lot of wind there. If you look up on Mill Street yesterday morning, the one tree is lived this whole life there and it's no longer there. The wind blew it over. And wind is a real problem, especially something like this with that big. So I'm just wondering if there's some way, we got 9 days. Can you get that engineered? Like I said, you couldn't possibly dig down and not put that footings on that existing structure.
Correct. And it is possible that an engineer would look at the structure in total and, you know, decide if we had the proper beams, the proper support, you know, potentially the frost protected footings may not be an issue but I think the real problem we're going to run into is going to be that bolt embedment. I just don't see an engineer approving it without the proper bolt embedment, because that's, again, it's the most critical aspect of holding buildings to the ground when we get to the sidelines.
Can I add something here? I did look into putting in foundations, actually pouring the footings post construction. And there is a such thing as slab on grade, but then that does fall back, like he's saying, to the minimum edge footing. So my proposal to fix that, I know that's your main concern is the foundation and footing. It's a full slab that's poured, but there is, just after the wall, there is pressure seam, so to prevent the crack. Okay. So what I was thinking is we could drill a small hole, and my buddy does what's called like a back truck. And what we could do is back and fill at almost at the same time simultaneously with concrete. The thing is, right now, as the temperatures are, I don't see a way to do it currently because of the concrete would have to set within 72 hours, I'm thinking, and we just can't, even with the chemical reaction to concrete, the heat it produces, it's still going to take 3 weeks, to do that. So if I could brace the structure temporarily, and then I did not realize the rental issue, so I can go ahead and pull that off the market. I was just trying to generate income because I know this housing market had slowed down. So what I can do is take it off the market so there won't be an issue with that. And then brace it to the existing slab, and then also pour some small footer out on the outside edge where he's talking about, the 5 feet of dirt that's on the outside edge. That way we can prevent wind shear problems through the winter, because I know we're gonna have pretty hectic winter, it seems like, with the weather. And then at the time of the thaw, I would go in and have that poured and simultaneously held up at the same time. Because we can literally lift that entire front beam can be post-lifted and held in place as to not fall over. And then any construction could be done with 0 weight on it at that point. It would be on the temporary supporting beams. Or if we need to, we could actually build something bigger than just a beam. Like we could put like a 6x6 box or a 5x5 box at each side of it to hold the roof up, with using that beam and then wrapping it like he's suggesting to, there is a way to do it. And I've talked to my friend who put me in contact with an engineer and said there's a way to do it, and it's going to be a pain in the ass, but we could do it.
But it's still going to have to be engineered. All of the Simpson strong ties and all that stuff has got to be part of this. I know you take it off the rent. I think you should take it off that and maybe take it off the sale as well until such a time that or to remove the structure. That's the way I'm looking at this right now. Either or keep that, I don't know, secure it for the winter or whatever he needs to do, and Craig can help us or whatever. And I think that it needs to be redone. And if you, like, I just watched Claude Rose lift the whole house and put in the foundation. I mean, so I know that's possible. But it's got to be engineered, I think, so. And the owner builder still go back to the owner builder.
It would still require a contractor for state law.
Yeah.
And then the cost benefit analysis would have to be Mr. Knowles to decide whether or not it was worthwhile.
And I do have a contractor, so that would not be an issue.
How much time do you need?
No, I want to, if I could, may I?
Yeah.
So, forgive my naivete for not understanding every single thing, but I think I have a picture. I think what's most important is that you are trying to get something built, however, you need to follow the letter of the law.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, and again, forgive my naivete, is there a way to give yet more guidance and structure, and that the two of you could sit down and possibly talk about what
So the
he could do?
building code specifically prohibits me from drafting the work. And in this case, it would require an engineer to not only design something that would be appropriate, but honestly, given the kind of proposal for a ex post facto foundation to be put in, engineer's guidance would be required as well. My job is to certify that it's for the engineering. I don't do any design. I don't look at things that are out of compliance and say that's good enough. You don't want me to do that. I read the magic scrolls and interpret them as they're written, and in this case, it would be an engineer and a contractor being
So
required. for this.
what you're saying is he needs to talk more with, take the suggestions that you brought forth and then talk with you.
To a design professional,
Okay,
correct?
Okay.
Yeah, and again,
So my
you know,
question is, can
the
that happen?
non-compliance, again, is revocable. I mean, it's revocable the minute that we come into compliance, either through proper engineering or through removal. So, I mean, it would only stop the sale up until the point where this thing is remedied, and then it can be removed within 24 hours.
And based on that, I believe the options before council are to either approve the appeal or deny the appeal. And it's my understanding that a denial of the appeal will not prevent Mr. Knoll from continuing to try to remedy the issue.
Could we say, is there any way, because if there's a denial, is there any way that we could put what you just said, Leo, but it does not preclude him from continuing to do what he needs to do?
I mean, yeah, you can have that as your action item, but as Mr. Peterson stated,
And I understand
the
that.
certificate is revocable, so I think regardless, he would be able to continue to try to remedy the issue,
And that may not be necessary.
regardless of whether the certificate is issued or not, correct?
Correct.
But I go back to remedy the situation, it's the foundation in my view. So he can go get his engineering and figure out how they're gonna pump, we watched them pump up the corner of the church over there, the same thing. I don't see how we can do anything with, if you don't got the foundation fixed to start with. We don't want him to go in there and put a new header in, if the whole building is still gonna fall over.
And that's part of the issue. So I was the lead inspector on the Salt Lake City Temple project before I came here to Ely. They were lifting 150,000 ton stone building in the air and putting some seismic pads underneath it. So there's all sorts of crazy things that can be done, especially at the direction of our structural engineers. I used to say that I default to people smarter than myself, but then I realized that was about 99% of the world. So now I tightened that up to I default to my structural engineers. So it can be done. The question would be for the I guess inhabitant of the property or state director, or whatever Mr. Knoll's title is whether or not it would be worth the cost. My guess is it would come at substantial cost. That's not a decision for me to make. If proper engineering is presented to the building department, it will always be considered.
Well, I can say with last night, you've already laid out a pretty good blueprint on what needs to be done. And I think Mr. Knoll probably understands that as well. Everything in here is got backed up. So as long as we don't actually forbid them going forward, but I don't want to make a motion. I would make a motion to deny the
appeal.
Harvey,
Deny the appeal.
appeal.
But I would second that motion with the caveat that there's no work is to continue on it, whatever stop order thing you put down, whatever it's called, that has to stay in place until the we get a remedy on the foundation. But I don't wanna see him going in there working and fall down on him even.
Correct.
So that's what I say, I do deal with the fact that we do not give direction to the building inspector to withdraw.
He said he could have gone whenever he got,
Whenever
he
it's-
said within
Yeah.
24 hours.
When things are
Yeah,
corrected.
you gotta wait until that comes through.
Yes, done, sure.
At the time of that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it with that stipulation.
Okay. Is there any discussion? So I just need to ask, so Jennifer, do you have it rewritten away?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so no discussion? So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we will go back into item 9, number 3, for the engineer.
This is just basically a formality of just completing out, accepting the project as well.
Okay, then again, acceptance of Murray Street sewer main upgrade project phase 3, PWP, WP-2022-162.
Utility Board recommended approval.
So do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
If I knew it was gonna be that quick.
Item 10, for discussion, possible action only of the Ely City Council. Consent agenda. These items may be approved in one motion by the City Council as its first action of business for discussion, possible action items. Approval of the consent agenda approves each of these items. Council members may remove any item from the consent agenda by notifying the mayor or mayor pro tem.
I'd like to make a disclosure, I'm a past member of the Ely Volunteer Fire Department, and I looked at these bills, I don't see nothing pertaining exactly to the volunteers or the fire department, but we buy fuel for them, so I'll disclose that, but I feel if I vote in favor of paying the bills, it's for the best interest of the citizens of the city.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second?
Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. All right, new business. This is from Mayor Robertson. Discussion for possible action. Approval to add City Treasurer Jeanette Trask as an additional signatory on all City of Ely bank accounts.
This is just a silly question, if the treasurer would come, I know what the answer is going to be, but I have to spot it out. The auditors have been camped out in your vicinity over there. What's their thoughts on this?
Actually, I asked them first before we put this on, and they said since I'm not creating the checks anymore, that they have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
And that's because you're not creating the checks anymore, right? Okay. Wait, hold on to that.
I've been asking, where have the separation of money from the person takes it to the depository, plus the person takes it to the bank, right? Okay, in this here case, we would have, the only problem I have with it, and I think it's good to have it on there, is that we could actually have two employees signing their checks. I think it still needs to have one employee and one other signer on that, on any
Well,
checks. That's,
That's probably what will happen, but there are cases where she ended up just recently having to use the mayor's stamp. To me, it just is one more
Check signer.
check signer.
I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
Just for clarification, I don't believe I've ever used the mayor's stamp
Oh,
on a check.
I thought you did that.
I did on a
I'm
business
sorry.
license, yeah, I don't know. it's an emergency, I don't remember ever having to do that on a check, because we've got four signers.
Yeah, so, and one of you will be one of the other two.
But neither one of you are absent, then the other one could do it, that's the only reason
I'm not asking for us to be the only two to sign it, it's just an added fourth person, losing you, and I was just gonna go on as the fourth.
I'm perfectly okay with that, as long as it's, I move to approve the treasurer trust to be on all the signatures of the city being bank accounts with the condition that all checks must be signed by one employee and one other signer.
One employee, one other sign, I don't understand that. They're all employees. Or-
We got the mayor and myself on there.
So, I need
Yeah, I
that.
think what he's saying is
He's a city official.
it'll be one of the appointed officials and one of the elected officials to be signing, not
Okay.
two
All right.
appointed.
Okay, now copy it. All right, thanks, man.
So can we say it like that, one appointed and one elected? Makes it clearer? Okay.
No, thank you. I'll second his motion as modified.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, approval of proclamation to declare November 26, 2022 Small Business Saturday in the city of Ely. Whereas the government of Ely, Nevada celebrates our local small business and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62% of the net new jobs created since 1995, and small businesses employ 46.8% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting the small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday, 70% report the day makes them want to encourage others to shop small, independently owned retailers, and 66% report that the day makes them want to shop small all year long. And whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported they dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe on Small Business Saturday in 2021. And whereas Ely, Nevada supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore I, Mayor Nathan Robertson, Mayor of Ely, Nevada, do hereby proclaim November 22nd, 22 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and the communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Duly proclaimed by the City of Ely Council this day of November 10th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Good read.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
A second. Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I like one of them numbers are pretty close to COVID. I'm kidding.
I think, to you, just a sort of a wise comment. You know, I really support small business. We have a small town. One thing that hurts a small business is these cell phones. Small business, that phone does a lot of business outside this community. You can tell that by today. I had FedEx and UPS on my street at the same time. They're waiting to deliver packages at both houses, two houses, at the same house. But you know, we gotta do what we can. I like the mayor's thought. It gets out there. We gotta push. We got new businesses coming to town all the time, and the sooner they get fired up, the better. So I'll make a motion to do that.
Was that, who made the
Oh,
motion?
yeah.
The second.
I say.
No, the second was from.
The second.
Oh, okay.
The motion was from
All right.
Council.
So this was discussion. Is there any more discussion? No? All in favor?
All right,
All opposed? Motion carries. I welcome in Small Business Saturday in the city of Ely, November 26th, 2022. Let's all get out and support that. The next thing, Councilman Spear, Councilman Allworth, discussion only, update on Porter Group efforts on the city of Ely's behalf to secure federal and state funding.
I missed the meeting, so they've got something to say.
I missed it too.
All I'd say is Cameron and Porter rep, when he talks to us again, it's all be, what's gonna happen now is based on the results of the elections.
There's actually a meeting that's coming late. They canceled that too, so. Limbo. That's cool.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move to public comment. Comments not exceeding 3 minutes in length will be accepted from the general public in attendance. If any are made, there may be discussion upon those comments. No vote, decision, or action may be taken upon matters raised under this item until it is formally placed on the agenda. Section 7.05 of the Nevada Open Meeting Law manual indicates that the public body may prohibit comment if the comment is, if the content of the comment is a topic that is not relevant to or within the authority of the public body, or if the content of the comment is willfully disruptive of the meeting by being irrelevant, repetitious, slanderous, offensive, inflammatory, irrational, or amounting to personal attacks or interfering with the rights of other speakers. Is there any public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, in regards to the proper footing, so on and so forth, we're putting homes in the trailer park. There's no footing there. You're not meeting any frost lines. I want to remind you about the Parker project, Parker Avenue project by Carson Construction, went down 2.5 feet. All those improvements are in jeopardy. You should have pulled that bond. You failed to do that. So you're going after this gentleman now. I had a leaky roof. I turned it in, went to the state contractors board. To this day, I still have leaks. I filmed the leaks. The man from the state contractors board said, I don't see it. He did a good job. Your building inspector told me F-U-U-F-N-P, and it doesn't stand for barbecue fun and dance. He says, I hired a poor contractor. I didn't give him the license. You people make me buy a permit for protection, but you're giving me the fickle finger. Yet you go after this gentleman here. You have a double standard and that needs to stop. On our Main Street here, the old choir building, whatever you want to call it, no permit, put up vinyl, wind's tearing it up, you fall down and brain somebody. You haven't done nothing about that. No second fire escape, no ADA access, and yet the band keeps playing on. That's wrong. You ever going after this man? I want to remind you, Madam Chairman, I'm asking for reimbursement for the problem I took care of at 681 Parker with penalties and interest as of this day, not this day, excuse me, October 21st, 2022. You owe me $12,006.79, which includes penalties and interest. I want to remind you that the billing for my property at 498 High Street is yet to be corrected. I want to remind you that you just recently paid off $380,000 to e-disposal for improper billing. You know that my billing keep going up? You can't selectively enforce the law knowing that there's a problem there. I want equal protection under the law, man. The state NDOT has put in new curb and gutter along 14th and 15th Street. We have a code. No ADA access. Nowhere for a person in a wheelchair to get by. Where's your building inspector? Where's your engineer? Where's your scanners that you talked about? Oh, here they are. 11-4-3 City Code. This is the entrance to the William B. Riley Hospital. No ADA access, person in a wheelchair, let alone an